Peltomaa.
Yeah, she wanted to be called Carolee, by the way.
Yeah.
Afterwards, she never really liked the name Colleen very much, because that was the name that her father gave her, and her father she wasn't that warm with, and her aunt's name was Colleen. That's why her father gave her the name Colleen, but she really liked the name Carolee better. That was her middle name, and that was given by her mother. So I guess about 4 or 5 years ago, she asked me to stop calling her Colleen and to call her Carolee. So you can call her Colleen if you want, but I'm just going to call her Carolee because that's her wishes. So anyhow, whatever.
So because I've now known you're going to use Karalee, you're going to use Karelee. So we invited him.
Yes.
We invited Peltomaa so that you can give us a background of Karelee, so that we can know how she lived her life, how achievements with fasting, especially we are talking about dry fast here particularly, because this is what has been what was like what brought us together, what made us know each other was just this dry fast. And it's something that we felt is good for everybody else to know. We just want to give one Peltomaa is going to give general information. He's going to give just information on what happened. And even as we are starting, we are also still in a mood that is we are still in that somber mood, because this is a person who just passed on last month, beginning of the month last month. So it's still fresh, We need to talk to Peltomaa also on this one. Yeah. So you are welcome. You can give us the background and achievements, and sometimes we're also going to everybody wants to know really what happened, because for us, everybody, we always know dry fast is answer for everything. So when somebody just passed on and is a person like a pioneer of this thing, this is a person who is like very well known. Everybody, if you call her name anywhere about the dry fasting community, she was so good in commenting. YouTube, Facebook, she was very fast in writing her comments. I have a big YouTube channel, and she has, I think, the most comments there. There's nobody who has done the comments like her. Yeah. And there's something else I also wanted to tell you. The reason why I felt we needed to, I had not told you this even over the phone call before. So I need to tell you this one today. If there was any person I met online on the dry fasting community, she was my number one. In her instructions, she was also giving. There's nobody who has ever supported this program like I'm making them, like her. She was also giving so much. And I felt like we can give her, for me, I gave her a gold star, like the best of the best person you can meet. That's what I can call. Yeah. Because people give without being coerced, and some people give by being pressurized. Peltomaa, Karalee asked me, what do you want me to help you with? Because at that time, she was seeing that I was sitting on a chair, plastic chair, making these programs going on. And then she felt like, what do you feel I should help you with? And I was also making these meetings, and sometimes I had problems with my computer and my phone. So like, how can I help you? I did not ask her for help. She's always like, how can I help you to make this program work and continue with producing this? I do a lot of interviews. So, and how can I help you do these interviews so that you can continue producing these interviews? We want to hear more about these people who are living this kind of lifestyle. So that's why I felt it's an honor for me, particularly Frederick, to just give her honor by inviting you, by appreciating what she has done. I told her several times, there are some chats here, if I'll be able to share them, I'll share them with you too. Because she was just too good for me. I was sometimes, then there's a last time she decided to send me something, and she was like sending me $100. Yeah? And she was saying, I'm sending just for your family member. Can you get to your family member that is in need? Let me just send to any family. There was too much connection between me and her in conversation, in what, and I was not asking for the money from her. That's the best thing with her. She was not like, can you give? No. This is a person who is giving because she felt what we were doing, we were connected like a family. Yeah. Though she told me she was a retiree, she was a pensioner. That's the new name she was using. Pensioner. Yeah. And lastly about her giving, this is also I need to open up and tell you again the truth. There was something that she saw like a dream. Sometimes I think she was in France or somewhere. So she saw herself in France or somewhere in a house that was next to a court. So we had a vision with her. She was the one who was even pushing for me to continue doing this, to build a fasting center here in Kenya. So she was like, can we get a proposal? She even introduced me to this thing called Go Send Me, a crowdfunding kind of a thing that is working with there. So I really honor Karelee. I did not know Karelee will pass on that fast. But the last conversation we had with her, she was like, maybe we can do this thing in the next, maybe when I'm gone. Maybe she started to use some words that made me know that she was giving up. But I did not know she was sick. She didn't disclose to me that she was having a problem. So, yeah.
When did she say those things?
This is something that has taken almost like a year plus. The first conversation I had with her was long ago, but the last conversation was in April. The time she was now telling me, maybe we can now do this. It was the very last communication in April. But before she was not giving up. She was not telling me there was a problem she was struggling with.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So where do you want me to start? First of all, I prefer if you call me Aarre. That's my first name. It's an anglicization of a Finnish name. My mother called me Aarre, and that means treasure in Finnish. And then Peltomaa.
I'll be able to call.
So she took my last name when she married me February 14th, 2003 in Fairfax County Courthouse in Fairfax, Virginia. So that was a nice day. There were only 3 people present: herself, myself, and the person presiding over the ceremony. And we didn't spend much money on it, just $50. So that's all. No big ceremony or anything like that. And we got our marriage certificate. So that was a wonderful day. But we had prepared for that for some time. Like, it wasn't a marriage that we had just suddenly decided to do. Like, she had a $600 phone bill, and I had 2 inches of emails which I printed off, which I still have in public storage, by the way. And we met through Affinity Exchange, which is a dating service through the group that we belong to. And anyway, I don't want to get into a lot of things that you're not interested in, so I have to curtail my conversation to things that you're interested in. But anyway,
she had her thyroid
removed?
Yes. Yeah, she had a fibrous thyroid, and she said that at 17 years old, a Chinese doctor had cut out her thyroid, which is suppressive. It really makes me angry. It's sabotage, it's betrayal, because there could have been some natural ways to handle that problem. But the doctor just cut it out. And from then on, she was always struggling in her life. And remember, Teresa, I listed, I think, 5 points, or was it with you? I listed them out. Number 1.
The main thing that she had her thyroid removed at 17, and as you said, she might have been kept alive by dry fasting. We don't know, but she was struggling a great deal. Even though she championed everyone else, none of us knew that she was struggling.
That's right. No, for one thing, the solution at the beginning, the medical doctors gave her was Centrex or whatever the darn thing is, and that gave her brain fog. That's just crap. And then later she used Simplex F, which is an American product derived from cows in New Zealand, organic cows, and that gave her a thymus, spleen, pituitary, thyroid, or whatever all those yucky things inside the body are, those organs and the endocrine glands, right? Hers was Simplex F. But I used to go across the border to get it for her sometimes and smuggle it into Canada. I just throw it under the seat and smuggle it in, and I never got in trouble, thank goodness. I would just buy it in the or in the chiropractic offices, mostly in Buffalo or Niagara Falls, New York, and then bring it in. But eventually, I don't know why that fell out. She started using another company called AOR, which I believe is from Calgary, Alberta, and that product was called T100. But then Health Canada came up with this brilliant idea that they won't allow you to use a thyroid or different glandulars unless you have a prescription. And I feel guilty about this, but I should have got her to get to a doctor and get a prescription, because if she got to a doctor and got a prescription and was taking the glandulars, that probably would have helped. But after she started dry fasting, she was noticed that she was able to function without glandulars. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because it might have been stressing her body out too much. It's like if a baby is just freshly born, you wouldn't ask that baby to go do a marathon or go lift up some heavy objects in the yard. It's just not real. It's not the correct gradient. You know, the correct gradient gradually going uphill will get the best gain. But if you try to go too fast, you're not going to get there faster. You're actually probably going to get there slower. Like I drive truck, and I know one thing: if you're in a hurry and you're trying to go up a hill and you want to race to get up the hill, and you rev the engine and you overstress it because it's just not able to get you up the hill faster, the RPM of the engine will go down. And if it goes too far down, it's just going to conk out. So you're not going to get there faster by over racing it and stressing it beyond the ability that it has. Same with an airplane. I've seen videos of people taking off and trying to go too vertical too quickly. And if they don't shallow out pretty soon, they're going to stall at a certain speed. And they're not going to get there faster. They're going to get there slower. In fact, they're going to smash right into the ground. So trying to get there faster by cheating the gradient is not, in my opinion, a good idea. So I think she should have stayed on the glandulars. So I lay guilty that I didn't get her butt to a physician, even though she was in Canada. She's not a Canadian citizen and never was. I never got her sponsored, and I feel guilty about that. There's various financial reasons why, because to do with taxes and stuff like that, but I wasn't able to get her sponsored at that time, but I should have done it. But anyhow, either way, she was not covered by the medical establishment, by any OHIP, Ontario Hospital Insurance Plan. She was not covered by that. I'm covered by it because I'm a Canadian citizen, but she's was an American citizen. So we sort of brushed these medical things aside, worrying that they might cost a lot of money. We just kept kicking them down the road, thinking another day we'll get to it. But that's one thing I would definitely say. She should have stayed on her glandulars. And she even admitted that probably she should go back onto her glandulars. But I think it was a little too late. That's my opinion. I can't prove what caused her to drop her body, but I think that's a contributing factor. And then another thing is, let me get these bottles, just a sec.
Yeah, Teresa, it's good you ask questions that you feel you need answers. Yeah, continue, please.
she found out about these oxygenators, and I took Hamazon, which is comes from Houston, Texas, and it's really good for flushing out your system. But now when I ask myself, why did I use it? I'm scratching my head. If you had constipation or something, it'll really flush you out. What they do is they pack a bunch of oxygen onto magnesium, and then it's released in your GI tract, and it really makes you flush out. And then there's another one she was taking. With this one, she was taking oxy powder for many, many, many years. And anytime she ate, that night she would take oxy powder and she'd flush it out. I think she did have a problem with constipation, but then that brings me to another point. And then later on, this is a Canadian company, she found that cheaper by OxyCleanse. But she used this stuff like candy. Like she would take 4 or 5 of them. Every time she ate, she'd take that stuff as. So I was just wondering myself, why the hell is she taking so much of that stuff? But I humored her because she's a strong being, and I didn't want to challenge her. I was afraid to challenge her too much because she, I'm embarrassed to say, she kind of wore the pants in the family. She was the boss, not me. So anyway, she kept taking this stuff, and I don't know, and I can't say. You can research it. I don't know if it flushes out your microbiome and screws up your microbiome, because I've heard of a lot of people lately saying if you do, Dr. Stephen Gundry, Dr. Robert Lustig, and many, many others say if you don't have a good microbiome in your gut, you're not going to be healthy. Doesn't matter how many tablets you take, doesn't matter how much you exercise, doesn't matter what you do. If you don't have good critters in your large colon and also in your small colon, you're not going to be healthy. That's it, because they're so important. They control even your emotions, your feelings. You can find probably dozens of videos about how microbiome is so important. So I'm just conjecturing because I don't know what effect that this had, but I don't know how the critters had any chance to sit in her colon because they got flushed out all the time. But just a sec here. Let me close the door here. I'm on the phone call, John. I'm on a phone call. That's my stepfather, John Hurstwood. He's the only one living here with me now. So that's my opinion. You can research it further. She was patching up a symptom, and I don't believe that she was digesting her vegetables very well. Your bacteria are one of the main things that are supposed to digest your vegetables. You're supposed to chew properly, but you're supposed to have the correct microbiome to digest them. And I know that I digest my vegetables quite well because I don't get little pieces of leaves coming out my rear end. So that's an important point. I don't think her colon was working very well. And towards the end, what is it? At least a year now, she had a prolapsed colon. And my mother, who was also an O blood type, my mother also had a prolapsed colon. You know what that is? That's where the colon pops out and it's sticking out. And it's not very nice, but she did have that for at least a year. So at first it was pink, and then later on it started getting some ugly colors like purple and brown and some gray and some reddish colors. And I said, what the hell is that? Why is it looking like bumpy like a raspberry? And later on at the Tobico General Hospital, they surmised that was probably cancer. So there's a lot of things I could speculate on, but I think that if you don't work with your microbiome in your intestines, the game is lost. I don't think you're going to win the game, regardless of what you do. And that's my opinion. I can't prove or disprove that, but many doctors now say the same thing. It's so important for your balance of your hormones, and they work together. The critters actually trigger you to create hormones, and they communicate with your body. They can even make you want to eat chocolate cake at 3 a.m. if they want. They can control you, you know, like my cat. She licks me in the morning if she wants to get fed. So she controls me and makes me feed her because she keeps licking me. So that's my opinion. You can study it, but I don't know who you said call. Just a sec here. I'm on the phone. I didn't say anyone called. I don't know who called. Okay. Sorry about that. So, and we can expand on all those points, I guess. I'm jumping around here. I know for at least a year now, she was not able to go for long walks with me. And that pissed me off because when I married her, I said, I want to go for long walks and hikes in the woods. And she was able to do that for, in the beginning, but then she, after a while, had to limit it to 1 hour, and then she would get a little tired. So I think her endocrine system had some problems, and I think it's tied in with her colon. And what happened at, I'm jumping around again. When she got to the emergency ward of the hospital, she had a CAT scan and some other tests, and the doctor that I talked to and the nurses thought that she had a colon cancer, and that prolapsed colon was cancerous. And there's a whole bunch of things I've been reading about cancer and how you have to work with your system. No one solution is the answer, but there's lots of solutions. And they figured that probably went to her breast, because her breast was on her left side, especially, was started to get really strange, because the nipple was to the side of the highest spot of the breast. And at first I thought, that's kind of strange. What's that all about? But I brushed it off, and they suggested that maybe it got metastatic. That means cancer had spread. And and they found that she was correct, that there was something going on in the left side of the brain, and they thought what it was is cancer. But I did not go for a biopsy and a whole bunch of, or an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, because as soon as I signed on the line, I figured I'd be hit with a bill for thousands and thousands of dollars. That's what I figured would happen. But thank goodness what happened is I told everybody I'm not going to be paying for these medical costs, because I didn't call for the ambulance, or I didn't call 911 yet. Caralee's daughter called 911 after she talked to me. And it's a good thing, actually, that she did. I'll explain in a minute. But there's a clause in the Canadian government that where the Canadian government, through some kind of COVID relief program, can pay for the cost of the medical treatment, and that's what they engaged. So I'm off of I'm not stuck with a bill for like $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever the bloody thing could have been. It could have been an enormous amount. And so anyway, they figured because I didn't have a biopsy and an MRI, could not conclusively prove that it was a cancer, but that's most likely what it was. And they pretty much ruled out that it was a stroke based on what they saw. And they don't think that's what it was. So, Teresa says in, what was it, 28th of April, she sent a message on Facebook about Houston. I have a problem with the left side of my brain.
Yeah,
correct, Teresa?
MS, multiple sclerosis or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so she already suspected something was wrong because she was a smart person. She's a genius. You know, I could get to all those things in a sec, but she started having numbness in her right foot, and she had a hard time getting up the stairs. She had to, hold on to the handrail, and then it got worse, and then her leg started getting more numb, and then her right arm started getting numb, and eventually she couldn't feel anything in her arm anymore. So she figured at that time her left brain was shutting down for some reason. She didn't know why, and I never did tell her the theory that it was a cancer because she was pretty much too far gone to have a conversation with when she was in the hospital. So eventually, she was having to crawl to the washroom, and eventually she didn't bother going at all. Then she basically, I had to put sheets in the bed, and she had to pee in the bed, basically. In all of June, she did not eat anything, not one bite. So let me put that on the record. She just had to decide that she was going to die, and she's a pretty strong woman. When she decides to do something, I guess she just does it. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but she did say that she had tried to commit suicide on the 1st of June because she knew that the body wasn't working anymore, and she took a whole pile of sleeping pills, but she did not succeed in that. And then on the 5th of June, she said, please let me die. Please let me go, to let her drop her body on the 5th of June. Because before then, I was trying to see if she can repair her body. But then she knew that it was past the make break point. Like I told you, if you try to stress the engine too much, going up a hill with a truck, you're not getting there faster. The RPM is going to go down. And then when it gets down, what was it, below 600 RPM or something, rounds per minute, the engine will suddenly just conk out very rapidly. So she knew that it was going downhill quickly. So I gave her permission to die, to drop her body on the 5th of June. So it was easier for her then. So I had to change her sheets, and in the beginning I could like in the beginning of May I could have intelligent conversations, but towards the end of May it started getting harder and harder, and then she'd almost be like schizophrenic. One time she'd be friendly, and other times she'd be mean and shoo me out. And then I think in June very seldomly was I able to have any conversations intelligent with her anymore. There were some lucid moments when something, and she knew what I said. Even in the hospital, there was one time when she squeezed my hand with hers. That was a very moving experience. So I knew she was still there. So I cried a lot, but I'm pretty much flattened on the crying now. But I tell you, I'm still pissed off that she dropped her body. I'm really upset because next lifetime I'm gonna kick her ass to the side of the street for leaving me. Anyway, sorry I have to say that, but I was planning to be with her for 50 years, and then instead I got 19 years, and of that I was only actually with her 13 years. But I'm jumping around a whole bunch of here and there and there and there. And there were times she was moaning, so I know she was in pain. So I gave her painkillers and so on. At that point in time, we just wanted her to die as quickly as possible because I didn't want her to be in pain, right? So one time I'd asked her, are you hurting? She said yes, and I asked her what's hurting, and she says she feels like she's burning all over. So you could do your own research, figure out what that is. It's obviously the endocrine system. She felt like she was burning all the way around her body. So anyway, I don't think she should have done her programs the way she did them. I think it's excellent to do dry fasting, but I don't think you should be doing it 3 out of 4 days of the week. Most of the time. I think that's getting a little bit too extreme. But she's done at she said she's done at least 20 dry fasts of 2 weeks each, and that's like extremely stellar, I guess, in the sense of statistics. She said, I think her longest one was 18 days that she said. She was even thinking of doing a longer one, but she was not a person of moderation. Like, I'm more of a person of moderation. She would be an extreme person, an extremist. And what else was I saying? Can you help me out, Teresa? I gave you mentioned 5 points. So that's it. And then she later thought maybe she should have started eating more fruits. So I don't know if that would have handled it or not, because I'm hearing so many things on the internet about what you're supposed to eat. Some people say they get better when they eat meat, and other people say they get better when they eat fruit. And I don't know if I'm coming or going, actually. I'm a lacto-ovo-vegetarian, and I have been since the mid-1980s, and I'm happy to be that. I find the idea of eating flesh disgusting, but that's not saying it's not right for someone else. There's the Liver King, just eats a raw piece of liver and like it was delicious, like candy. But I find that idea just revolting. I can't do it. So I don't actually have all the answers. I only have speculations. But she did really like the works of Robert Morse, ND, from Florida, and he says that he cured a lot of people. What? No, he didn't cure a lot of people. That's not what he said. He got people to cure them. Like, Putty Tat has a fur ball or something. Excuse her. But she like he says, that people have last stage problems, and that they go to him and they get solved eating fruit. So maybe that's true. So I don't know what to say. And her latest plan was to fast for 5 days and then totally binge for a day and go to the all-you-can-eat buffet, or to go to the sushi restaurant where we would, eat as much as we want. That was our plan, and then we could save money because we didn't eat food for 5 days. We could save money, and then really have a big meal at the sushi restaurant or the all-you-can-eat buffet, and then she'd spend the next day, absorbing and handling what she ate. And that was her latest idea. I never got that far because I'm still working on being on low carb right now to handle some pre-diabetes that I used to have, that I still have a little bit of. So anyway, I'm trying to think of the other points. I seem to be drawing a blank here. She said that she had a problem with calcium uptake. What's that?
No, go on. When you
said that my mother had a problem with calcium uptake. That's what Carolee said, and she's an O blood type. And pretty sure because Carolee said that if the colon prolapses, that means drops out of the rear end and sticks out. In other words, protrudes. That's a problem with calcium, because calcium is supposed to cause all that stuff to be held in place. And I don't know why both of them had a problem with calcium uptake, my mother and Carolee. I believe it goes back to the microbiome, because the microbiome is the real digester. You know, you just start digesting your food when you eat it and chew it. But the microbiome, they take it right down to a molecular level, and they create all kinds of biocompounds and hormones and this and that. And without them, you're never going to digest your food properly. It's not going to be possible just with your digestive juices. I'm 99% sure of that. And you can look that up on 100 internet videos if you want. So I think that has something to do with it. And how and why, I'm scratching my head. Strange. It's a mystery to me why they had a problem with calcium uptake. But are you still there?
Yeah, we are here. We are here.
This is basically magnesium with a pile of oxygen packed into the magnesium. So I don't. As you know, there's a balances in the body of minerals. There's a calcium magnesium balance. And perhaps if she had too much magnesium, she'd lose calcium. That's just a theory. I can't prove it again. But if you have too much of one mineral, because they're teeter-totters, there's like at least half a dozen teeter-totters. That means like the kids ride where one goes up and the other goes down, and they swing like this. If you have too much of one mineral, you don't have enough of the other one, and vice versa. They need to be kept in balance. So one speculation is that maybe she had too much magnesium and didn't get enough calcium. But she was starting to take kelp, which is an excellent source of calcium and all kinds of minerals. And she really liked that. She said her body said, yes, yes, yes.
And alpha. She also talked about alpha. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Extremely recommended. I have to get to making it again. I'd like to show you some, actually. Let me get the bucket out of storage. I'll be right back. I'd like to show it to you. Okay. This is a Home Depot bucket. Extremely recommended. In fact, I should start doing it again. You will not find this in a health food store.
So what's that exactly?
Alfalfa pellets.
Oh, okay.
We have buckets of this. It's the cheapest food that you could ever buy. And I almost feel like keeping it a secret, because if the word gets out and everybody starts eating it, the price will go up, but that's kind of a selfish thought. For years, I was trying to think, where can you get alfalfa? You can't even find it in a health food store. Just a sec here. Sometimes she's the genius, sometimes I'm the genius. I'm the genius that came up with a solution. You have to go to a feed store for animals, for farm animals. We went to one in Moffat, Ontario, and we got a big bag, this big, for $30. That'll last like a year for $30. That's packed with nutrition. So if you can find an animal feed store, if there, I don't know if there is one in Kenya, but
Oh,
do
seen
what,
it.
what's that?
I've not seen those things here. Maybe if I may inquire. Mm.
Yeah, if you can, animal feed store. But ours was Sharp Feeds, SHARPE in Moffat. And when we buy it, they think we're feeding a cow or a horse, or a pet horse, or a goat or something, or our sheep. But we're feeding humans, and it's the cheapest food you can get. So she really liked that. I like it too. It doesn't taste very good. It's really alkaline. The taste is not great, but just chug it quickly. So what you do is you just put the pellets in the bottom of a jar with water. She used distilled water, but I guess I could use alkaline water, I think. And it'll just dissolve and get soft after a while. Shake it a few times. And then strain out the fibers and then just drink the liquid, because the alfalfa sends a root down 10 feet into the ground, much deeper than most other plants, and it gets nutrition that other plants don't get. Because you know that farms have been depleted because of the way they grow food. It's just chemical farming, but their roots go really deep and they get a lot of minerals. So highly recommended if you could get alfalfa pellets from a feed store, and then
Okay.
just dissolve them in water and drink the water. But,
Now let me ask
yeah.
you something about
Yes.
Interstellar. There's this guy who sells some things we bought online. She bought online
What's Castella?
something Interstellar.
Interstellar.
Yeah.
Oh, Interstellar blends. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. She told me about them.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty powerful thing. Whoa. That'll revive the dead. I don't know where she kept it. It's in her room somewhere or in a closet somewhere. I have to get it. I took the one for detoxing, and I was going to the washroom every few minutes and having liquid stools, flushing out. And I literally lost 10 pounds in one day. You think I'm joking? You won't believe me. Yes, I did lose 10 pounds in one day. It's absolutely amazing. And it couldn't all be water, I don't think, but a lot of it was water, but not all of it. But I would like to do that maybe once every couple of weeks. But again, I don't want to go extreme and do it like every day, because that's insane. I think we got to learn something called balance. You know, a
Yes.
little bit of moderation. You know, do a little bit and then stop. Do a little bit again and stop. Do a little bit, but keep doing it all the time, I think, is a recipe for disaster, unless you know everything about how the body works and everything.
So let me ask you something. Let me just marry these two. Does it mean that those blends were working almost like the oxy powder, like to flash you, the oxy powder? Are they doing the same thing, or what was the reason for these blends? She was already using oxy powder.
They made you run, but they weren't doing it by the same process. It wasn't doing it by oxygen. It was doing it by some very, very powerful herbs. So when I find it again, it's in storage somewhere. Interstellar blends. You could look it up on the internet. But when I find it again, then maybe I can show it to you. I'd like to do it again, but do not do it if you're leaving home. Otherwise, you're going to shit in your pants. Guaranteed. You won't have time to get to the washroom. You won't have a chance. When you got to go right away. Like you got 30 seconds to get to the washroom, and then and a few times I did squirt in my pants. You know, you're going to go in a hurry, real hurry. But yeah, if you want to lose 10 pounds in 1 or 2 days, yeah, it'll do that. I don't know exactly all the pros and cons of it. That's the whole point again. I don't. I know it's an extremely powerful detoxer, and we did do it several times. So I would like to do it again, actually. And she still has some. You only use a small amount. If you use too much, whoa, I'm scared to think what would happen. I don't know if you might blow up or something. I don't know what would happen if you use too much. You would have a very bad hair day. You know, it's just, if I could say anything, just because something's good doesn't mean twice as much as twice as good. That doesn't mean 3 times as much as 3 times as good. If there's nothing else you learn from my talk today, learn that. There's a bell curve. There's an optimum growth of benefit. And after you go beyond that, it's going downhill most of the time. So more is not always better. Like if you drink, 5 liters of water a day, that might be good. But that doesn't mean if you drink 10, that's twice as good. Because you're going to start flushing out some minerals and other things, and you're going to really screw up your system if you drink too much water. Just like anything else. If you do it too much, it goes beyond that optimum level. And if you go beyond that optimum level, it's called the bell curve. Look up bell curve in the internet. You're going downhill after that. You're getting worse. You're not getting better. Like, have you ever tried to put a screw into the wall? Have you ever tried that?
Yeah.
It's getting stiffer and stiffer, and then there's the optimum tightness.
Can pass.
That's the top of the bell curve. And do not go beyond that. When it gets stiff, leave it alone. If you keep turning it, it's gradually going to get weaker and weaker, and then very rapidly, it's just going to twirl around and around and around, and you can pull it right out because it ripped the wood. So more is not better. There's an optimum level where it reaches the best strength. And then if you go beyond that, it's going downhill. You're actually ruining the connection of the screw. And it's making it weaker and weaker until it won't work at all. And that could be very rapid. You turn it 2 more times after the optimum, it might not even hold at all anymore. It might just pop right out.
There are 3 recommendations that I wanted to let you know from what you're saying. First of all, that flashing, whatever you're using, it's not supposed to be done more than twice in a year. So I see that there was the flashing of the gut, of the digestive tract, should not be done more than twice in a year. It should not be just like every day. Another thing is also about the long dry fast. It's recommended not to do so many of them in a year. You just need one long dry fast, like 9 day or 11. That's the maximum in a year. So when you have so many of them within a year, it becomes like there's no balance the way you have said. So I've already from as we are talking, I get the points where we need everybody else to know who is in the fasting community, because there was too much flashing of the gut or the system. There was also that frequent fasts that actually brought the body to a point what you already said earlier, to like exhaustion. The body felt like now it's exhausted.
You might be, I don't know, I speculate you might be able to do it once a month, but I wouldn't do it like every week. Maybe, I don't know the exact, the bell curve, I don't know exactly where the top is. That's why I like to practice moderation. I might not have gotten to the optimum, or I might have gone past the optimum going downhill at the other side of the hill, so to speak. So it's, unless we know what the actual optimum is, it's best maybe to stay a little bit on this side of the bell curve. You might not have gotten the full benefit, but at least if you got half or even 3/4 of the benefit, you should not be sad, If you keep doing it, you're going to get the result. You're going to get the result. I highly recommend that people do dry fast, and I did do it. I have not done it regularly. I sound like a hypocrite, but it's my wife that was mostly doing it, not me. But I did do it for 3 days, and I felt great. I did another one, and it was 2.5 days. I felt good. And on days when I don't eat, I usually feel better than days when I do eat, which makes me think sometimes, why the hell am I eating? Every time I eat, I feel like, or most of the time after I eat, I feel like crap afterwards. And that might be because I'm was pre-diabetic and not hyperinsulinic like 90% of the people in North America hyperinsulinemic, too much insulin. So I actually feel better sometimes when I stop eating. It's actually a relief. So one thing one of the many hundreds or thousands of things I learned from my wife is learn to listen to your body. But I know it sounds like a joke because obviously her body killed her or died, but it's still a true datum. And I find that the cleaner my body is, the more I can sense how it feels. I can sense it. Like if your body is all toxic, you don't know what it's telling you because there's so much garbage twirling around. You can't tell what signals are which. Like say you have a radio playing, and then you have a whole bunch of tornadoes and hurricanes and jet engines from an airport. You probably won't know which are the musical notes in the radio because there's so many other notes and noises. So if you can get your body cleansed, I think you're going to be able to feel your body better. And then when it tells you stop eating that, well then stop eating it. You're going to feel it in an innate sense that that's enough. Like yesterday, the day before yesterday, I fried some eggs. I'm a lacto-ovo vegetarian. I don't know if that's right or wrong or good or bad, or I don't know what to make anymore. But those are the only protein foods I eat from animals is eggs and cheese. And there's debate about whether that's good or not. But and there's other stories like you should have A1 and not A2 and that's one of the proteins in the cheese. But I had fried 4 eggs, and when I got through maybe 1/4 of it, which would be 1 egg, I said, ugh, yuck, I don't feel like continuing. So listen to your body. Don't force yourself to eat the damn thing if you don't want to eat it anymore. I put it in a bag back in the refrigerator, and this morning I finished it. Because some people are perfectionists, like myself. I programmed myself to think that when you put on your plate, you finish it. You totally clear out what you finish or put on your plate. But that might not be a good idea. It's better to be, if you have to, it's even better to just waste the food and throw it out than to eat it if you should not be eating it. So it's my opinion. If you can listen to your body, if it tells you what you want and what you don't want, and of course that's moderated also by intestinal bacteria. They can tell you want to eat a chocolate cake, and you're going to have a craving for a chocolate cake. So you got to know who's talking. Is it the bad guys or the good guys? So, but once you get more clean, you'll sense what your body wants better. So, and I'm no perfectionist. I'm not perfect. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I'm obviously have a long way to go about that subject. But I'm improving. That's the whole thing. I'm always working on it. And
on the same note,
what else was I going to say? Yes.
She was talking about cleaning her fridge. That listening to the body made her stop eating some kind of food. She started to only remain with some things that she felt the body needed. Exactly what you are saying.
Yeah.
So we can say by the time. Would you say that she was a fruitarian? What kind of a diet was she? Yeah.
She never. Pardon me if I have some of my coffee. This is a mason jar, and this is coffee. I know I shouldn't be drinking it this late, but I just a little bit.
No problem.
No, she absolutely wasn't a fruitarian, but she was entertaining the idea, but she could never make the switch. Her compulsion to eat flesh was too strong. And right from the get-go, when I first met her, she told me that she ate meat, and I told her I was a vegetarian. So right from the very get-go, we made an agreement that we would not bother each other about our diets. I let her eat her meat, and she likes some meat tartare. That means rare, almost with blood coming out of it. You would see some blood in it. I would find that disgusting. But some people, that's the cat's meow. So who am I to say? I don't know enough. The more I learn, the more I know how stupid I am and how little I know. Um, she never did make it to becoming a fruitarian, although she was leaning more towards it and eating more fruits. She never did make it. So we'll never know what effect that would have had if she did do it. According to Peter D'Adamo, eat right for your type, which is for your blood type. Uh, O blood types do the best with eating flesh, and then B blood types do the best with eating dairy products like cheese. And then the A blood types do the best at being vegetarian. And that's the theory anyway, so I don't know if that's accurate or not, but we did practice that for a while, and then it got too ponderous and we gave it up. Now I just entertain it intellectually now, because it's just, for one thing, you can't separate your carbs and your proteins and your fats like the natural hygiene people from the 1920s said. You're supposed to keep all your carbs and your fats and your proteins separate. You're not supposed to mix them because they take different things to digest. But now we're supposed to eat everything in the 4-hour window. That's intermittent fasting. We're not supposed to be eating all throughout the day, because that keeps your insulin high all the way during the day, and you got to give it a break so the insulin can come down. So how can you separate your fats and proteins and your carbs when you're supposed to eat them all at one time? So it's like, are we going left or right? So I just gave up on the concept about food combining to some extent. And I just said, it's too difficult. But in early May, she was eating some apples and some fruits. Nothing heavy anymore. I have to go through the receipts to see if we went to any restaurants in May. I'll have to check through my May receipts. I don't think we did. But I know that in June, she did not eat one bite. And as far as I know, the hospital honored her wishes and only had an intravenous to give her water and painkiller, and also a sedative, because she started grabbing things around her head and clawing at things. So, she was getting demented. And to the best of my knowledge, they never did put any nutrition or any food particles or foods other than water in her tube. So she decided she wanted to drop her body, so she had no reason to eat at all anymore. She just wanted to speed it up. So I honored that. I didn't feed her. She wasn't going to do well with it anyway, because I offered her some alkaline water. I think it was late in May, and she could barely drink it. She did drink some water in early June, but then in the last 2 weeks of June, she didn't drink anything. Nothing at all. And then that was even 2 weeks before she went to the hospital. She stopped drinking any water. She's used to it anyway. She's been without water many times, right? But her body must have been extremely ketogenic. She must have been able to burn fat at the switch of a finger, because her body was so used to it. But there's so much I don't know about biochemistry. I'm learning more all the time, but there's so much that we don't know. And but the body, one thing she told me many times is the body has all the PhDs about how the biochemistry of the body works. It's got like 100 times more PhDs than any PhD in a university will ever have. It knows all about programming and how to make biochemicals and how to split molecules and put them together. And we don't know even 1/4 of it. So we're just guessing at a lot of it. So, but one thing I'm nervous about is going to extremes. I used to ridicule her about how she would bounce off the walls, go from one extreme to another, like a rubber ball bouncing off one wall and bouncing to another wall. And, we teased each other about that. So I would always see such a bloody extremist. And I guess sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. It's a gamble.
Mm.
Sometimes being an extremist can get you win you the lottery, of whatever you're trying to accomplish, but it doesn't always. So anyway, I'm trying to think. There were 5 points I was trying to drive home. I think I covered what were the 2 main ones. Oh, another point I was trying to make is I did suggest to her many times when she was dry fasting that your body doesn't know how to make essential fatty acids. It doesn't know how to make essential amino acids. That's why if they're called essential, you must consume them. You have to eat them because the body doesn't know how to make them. And your body, and chimps and humans, and I think one other kind of ape or something like that, doesn't know how to make vitamin C. And also, a lot of us might be missing some trace minerals. The minerals that are in micrograms. I told her many times, please at least take some trace minerals when you're fasting. Take essential fatty acids, take essential amino acids, and take vitamin C at least, because your body can't make those things. And she kind of brushed me off and gave me, a half acknowledgement. But I still have the question in my mind. How the hell was her body getting vitamin C when she was fasting for 2 weeks? Can you answer that question? Can anyone answer that question? How did her body get vitamin C? Obviously, you can only get it from reserves of what's already in your body. But it's water soluble and it's consumable. It doesn't just bounce around and get reused, as far as I know, unless I'm wrong. Once it gets consumed, it's expended, I believe. It's combustible, it just gets used up in that transaction, and it's not freed up like an enzyme to go play somewhere else. Let me just show you something. It's not to push a brand name. It's just it's just to push the idea that I think it's important. This is just a cheap brand of omega-3. It's just a cheap brand. I think it is made from fish. So if I burp the wrong way, I have a yucky taste in my mouth. Yeah, sardines, anchovies, mackerel, herring. Oh, and then this one I do recommend. Perfect Amino by Advanced Bionutritionals, because it's balanced in the correct ratio that your body can use it. Any amino acids that you don't use are just going to be turned to glucose. And I could take a hint from that, because I got too much glucose, and about 95% of the people have too much damn glucose in their bodies. They're swimming in a swimming pool of glucose. That's what there's so many sickness and illnesses, because of too much insulin because of glucose. But anyway, that's the third point I want to drive home. She never really went into all these tablets like I did. She used to ridicule me. Aarre, you got so many tablets, and what has it done for you? I think it has done something for me, because I think I'd be far worse if I didn't take them. So it has done something for me. And the amino acids, I definitely believe in. I take them every day. And in fact, I wish I had more money so I can get almost all of my protein needs from these, because I really don't actually like to eat cheese. It's very compromising. It's an animal product. If it's made from buffalo or sheep milk, which is A2 casein. It's not too bad, but it's still mucus forming. Oh, just to give you one thing I found out as a solution, just a sec. Sauerkraut. That makes me crap. I found that out. If I eat sauerkraut, even though I'm eating cheese, which is mucus forming, I still have a good dump instead of big hard balls. So, because it's got critters in it, there's a kind of a bacteria in this. Anyway, it keeps my system running. So you might be able to do it, you might not be able to, but it works for me to eat some sauerkraut every time I eat anything. I found that out actually not too long ago, about a month ago, that it was working better for my system when I ate it. So, but a lot of the things I thought were good ideas, she would poo-poo and would not accept. And she would just ridicule me for. And she kept saying something that's really bothered me. She said, dry fasting will cure everything. And I never agreed with that. And I don't agree with it. But what am I to say? She's the boss. So I don't want to get in an argument and go in the doghouse. Because if I get in an argument with her, she's going to slap me down verbally, and then I'm kind of.
And by the way,
shot. What's that?
Did you know where she learned dry fast? Because she was talking about a certain. There's a person who trained her with the dry fast. If it was a lady or a man, I don't know, but had died. Was a little older than her. You know where she learned this dry fasting from?
Where did she learn it from?
From, yeah, or from whom? Well, she was talking about a person like a mentor or something.
Okay. I don't remember the exact person who first mentioned it to her. But I know there's that Russian scientist that is a famous scientist that she kept referencing many times. What was his name? He's the famous one who knows a lot about dry fasting. He's had thousands of people do dry fasts. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
The Russian scientist.
Yeah,
What's
but
that?
that one was not. But that was not her. That was not her teacher. She just learned, developed more from her. There was a particular person. She didn't ever give me the name of that person, but I wanted to find out who this person was. She told me that person had already passed on, and was a little older than her. But the Russian doctor you're talking about is called Dr. Finalov. I think that's the person you're talking about.
Exactly. That's precisely Filanov. Yeah.
Mm.
Damn.
Don't worry. Don't worry, because I think it was
but it would have been when she was in Connecticut. Can I tell you a few anecdotes so you know our track record?
Yeah.
So how and what we did. So I married her in Virginia. I stayed with her and her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law had multiple sclerosis since she was 37 years old and was paralyzed from the waist down. My mother-in-law, June Stockham, used to have to go over in a wheelchair to get from one side of the house to the other, and she had to be jacked up in her bed so she could take a shit so that they could clean her diapers. Multiple sclerosis, I think, is a curable disease. You know, I guess I sound like a hypocrite. It's easy to talk when you don't have the problem, right? But I've seen all kinds of solutions to it. So, but anyway, so I met her, and I really did like June Stockham. But then we did some voluntary work. October 2003 or something like that in Buffalo, and then I made the stupid. And I was had myself close to being sponsored or close to getting a green card in the United States. I was 1 month from my interview for a green card. I already had a Virginia driver's license. I had a social security number, and I had a work permit. And I was already driving a dump truck in Virginia. And I said to myself, well, we're so close to Toronto. We're only 90 miles away. Why don't we go and get some of my stuff? That was a bad mistake. I wasn't allowed back into the States. They refused me at Buffalo, the jackasses. Bunch of assholes. They didn't let me back into the States. And all that work to get sponsored to the States was gone, just like that. It was just flushed. So take a note. If you are doing anything to do with emigrating to another country, be very, very careful about crossing any borders. Double, triple, or quadruple check it. I should have gotten a special visa permit to leave. Then I could have gotten back. But anyway, so she came and stayed with me here with my parents in Etobicoke, Toronto. And we lived there for a while. Then we got our own place here in Mississauga. Lived in the basement. And then we got our landlord had some brilliant idea of selling me some townhouses. Stupid jackass. I should never have bought those townhouses, but that's because I got some money from my mother from my parents' sale of their house. And because they sold the bungalow where they used to live. And then what happened is I spent so much time fixing